Hey everyone, today I just wanted to make a quick guide on how to spend your Primogems, since they don't really explain what the optimal way of spending them is in-game. First things first are wishes. Wishes are super important, as that's how you get new characters and items, etc. So, the reason why I'm mentioning wishes first is because it's usually what I recommend spending most of your Primogems on. Each wish costs 160 Primogems, which is also converted into one special currency, which in this case, in this summon, would be the Acquaint Fate. In other words, if you're doing a times 10 summon, it'll cost you 1600 Primogems, or also 10 of whatever the special currency is, so the Acquaint Fate in this one. The reason why I recommend this as the primary source of where you'd spend Primogems is because it's really one of the best ways to progress with your Primogems. The other uses of Primogems are kind of like side uses for them, and they don't use nearly as much of your Primogems. One of the things that I didn't know until honestly like 12 hours into the game was that in the Paimon's Bargains, you can go to purchase with Primogems and buy these with Primogems, which I had known initially, but never thought there was an alternative to this, so I would always buy these as soon as I could. But one of the main things that I realized is if you're in the Wish menu, and you have all your Primogems or whatever, if you go to the Wish button, it'll directly ask you, hey, would you like to purchase these Fates for this amount of Primogems? So instead of going to the shop every single time, you could literally just go to the Wish menu, and it'll automatically use your Primogems to buy the Fates, and then do the Wish. So that'll save you some time, so you're not constantly going to the shop, constantly spending, 160 Primogems at a time, or just a low amount or whatever. And instead, all you can do is just go to the Wish and immediately purchase the amount you need to do a Wish. Another use for Primogems, that's one of the primary uses that I highly recommend doing, is you can use Primogems to actually get more original resin. And yes, you can do that by using your fragile resin, but usually it's a good idea to save your fragile resin until endgame when you really need it. So this tip really applies to the early game, and also somewhat in the endgame, because the first refresh to get 60 extra original resin only costs 50 Primogems. I've done this every single day as a free-to-play player, and it is 100% worth it. Because to put it into perspective, 20 resin can be used in a ley line for 100 adventure XP. So 60 resin means 300 adventure XP that you're getting for just 50 Primogems. Leveling up is probably one of the most difficult things to do, since it really just requires time, and you can't really rush anything. So I highly recommend daily spending 50 Primogems to get the 60 extra resin. The only problem with this is that you can only refill 6 times per day, and also it costs more each time. So the first time it costs 50 Primogems, second time 100, 100 again for the third time, fourth time is 150 Primogems, fifth time and sixth time are both 200, and then that's the max amount you can replenish daily. So in general, if you're a free-to-play player, I highly recommend only doing the first one, as typically it's not really worth it to spend the extra 100 to get that 60 resin. However, obviously if you need to, you can spend 100 if you're like desperately trying to do something, you need some item and you don't want to wait an entire day to get stuff back. So, but in general though, I highly recommend using the 50 resin or 50 Primogems to get the initial 60 resin, because it's just such a good deal in terms of XP and everything. So, plus the only other thing that I highly recommend spending your Primogems on is the wishing that I just talked about, because the last thing that you can do with Primogems is spend it on your battle pass, which this honestly I think it's kind of just a joke, because the battle pass is just extraordinarily easy to succeed in. Like, you don't have to rush and constantly be like, oh, I gotta spend all my Primogems in the battle pass. Honestly, as long as you're just on regularly and you do like your basic daily missions, which one of them is literally just log in for 120 free XP, And then, if you do your daily commissions, if you do whatever the last two are, which are usually mine 10 items and use 150 resin, and then also try to go for the weekly missions, completing the battle pass is easy. But they do have an option, if you want, to purchase levels. However, it's kind of ridiculous. It costs 150 Primogems to go up one level. So yes, you can just spend all your Primogems, completing the battle pass and be done with it, whatever. You might want to have some extra Primogems as an emergency in case you're desperately trying to complete it and you have like 1 day left. But honestly, I highly recommend just not spending your Primogems on the battle pass, because 150 per level is ridiculous. To put it into perspective, one fate is 160 Primogems. And in addition to that, 120 resin for your initial 2 refills is 150 Primogems as well. So for the 150 Primogems you're spending on the one single battle pass level, you could be getting 600 adventure XP, which is the double resin refill, or you could get an additional 10 Primogems and get 1 free wish. So it's not really worth it to spend any of your Primogems on the battle pass. So just a quick summary to wrap up the video in case you just want to skip to this and don't want to listen to the rest of the video. I'll put a timestamp as well so people can find this. Essentially, your Primogem should be spent on your wishes, which it is 1,600 Primogems for a 10 times wish, or 160 for a 1 times wish. You can quickly do these wishes with your Primogems by simply going to the wish page, and then clicking on the summon you want, and once you click on the 1 times or 10 times wish, it'll automatically ask you, hey, do you want to spend your Primogems on this wish? And it'll spend your Primogems to acquire the fates, which you can use to do the wish. In addition to this, I also recommend doing your daily first and occasionally second resin refill, as this only cost you 50 Primogems for the first one, which is why that's 100% worth it. And then the second one is 100 Primogems, so it's sometimes worth it if you really are trying to get an extra 60 resin. Lastly, do not spend your Primogems on the battle pass because it's kind of ridiculous. One level for 150 Primogems is almost never worth it. So I would only spend your Primogems on the battle pass if it's an absolute emergency, you have no more time to complete the battle pass, and you have extra Primogems that you're willing to spend to get the battle pass rewards. That's all for this video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment if you have any questions or suggestions for future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.